Reco. Back one other video, man, and we got the first humans that we know of by my girl, Lindsay Nicole. Hey, I ain't watched her in a few months, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. I wanted to do some educational videos because I want to do some stuff on my channel that I actually like. So, hey, let's get into it, man. Hey, clap it up for Lindsay Nicole, everyone, before we, hey, comment what else y'all want me to react to. I'm in a good mood. I'll get that done. Let's get it.
What's up, homos? Yeah,
What's
that's
up?
right, homo.
Why are you gay?
I homo, you homo.
You are gay.
He,
Yeah,
she, we,
we
homo.
human.
In
We
the
all
genus
human.
Homo. And today, in this series about the evolution of humans, or more broadly, our hominin lineage, we have finally reached our genus, Homo. It's been a long journey. We started with our more distant relatives, like 7-ish million years
This nigga look like someone I know, but I ain't gonna say the name.
ago with Sahelanthropus, Auroran, some of the earliest members of our lineage that we know of, that were only slightly distinct
know
from the
of.
other apes of the time. Then we looked at other ancient species like Ardipithecus, then boom, Australopithecus, which was a very diverse group that lived all over Africa between 4 million and 2 million years ago. We did a little side quest to Paranthropus, who may or may not be a branch within the
Ugh, look at
Australopithecus
the
section of the
skull,
bush.
bro.
There was variety within Australopithecus, with some surprisingly
Ugh.
human-like in the shape of their skulls, the proportions of their limbs, and even in their behavior. We don't know exactly where, but somewhere within that diversity, one particular lineage eventually developed enough unique features to be classified as something new. They left behind the genus Australopithecus and became the genus Homo. And yeah, that's what we are. Homo. Homo. I Homo squared. You may be Homo squared too. Or maybe just Homo plane. Homo plane is just Homo sapiens, the only living species in our genus. But there used to be many more Homo species, even more diverse than the Australopithecus part of the bush that we know of. And so today,
I ain't gonna lie, y'all boys. We're gonna have a quiz within the next two to three videos I do with her now, so y'all better be paying attention. Cause I'm gonna make sure that I quiz y'all boys.
we're gonna start with the earliest members of our human lineage. Yeah. So far in our journey through our ancestors, we've talked about human-like apes. But in this episode, for the first time, we're talking about extinct species of ancient humans.
Yes,
So,
get
without
it.
further ado, my name is Lindsay Nicole, and this is the evolution of us that we
That
know
we
of.
know of.
We're gonna get the general information out of the way. The name Homo comes from a Latin word that means human, which try telling that to the kids making fun of you back in the day in the schoolyard, am I right? All right, enough with the gay jokes. This
That's
is
funny
serious
as hell.
business. Today, our genus is monospecific. That means
Boy, this nigga cha. Look at this nigga.
we're the only living species of Homo. But in the past, there were lots more. Names you might have heard like Homo habilis, Homo erectus. This is serious business. Within this group, we see the evolution of habilis, Homo erectus. This is serious business. Within this group, we see the evolution of some of the most iconic traits of our own species. Our giant brains, our fully bipedal locomotion, complex tool use, etc. The history of our genus begins a little over 2 million years ago with a species named Homo habilis. So we're gonna start with their discovery. Homo habilis was first identified in 1964 by a team led by Kenyan British paleoanthropologist Louis Leakey and his family. Yes,
Why is it when
Louis
something happens, it is
Alright, y'all got that? 1964, discovered by Louis Leakey. I better write that down. Because within the next two to three videos I do with Lindsay, we're going to go ahead and do everything that we know.
always you three?
remember the fossil hunting family from the last episode and the
I
episode
need to
before
watch
that?
that.
Kind of. Louis Leakey was the papa. The remains were found at a site called Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. The site has been excavated since the early 1900s and produced some of the most important hominin fossils found so far, including early members of Homo and our ancient cousins in Paranthropus. The original identification
look
of
at
Homo
that
habilis was
skull.
based on a specimen called OH7, which consisted of some hand and foot bones and skull fragments dating to about 1.75 million years ago. Right away, scientists noticed important differences compared with earlier Australopithecus. This new hominin had a larger brain case, and the shape of its hand bones would have given it greater manual dexterity like ours. Overall, Homo habilis seemed to be an important part of the transition between earlier hominins and true humans. And naturally, experts from all over the world weighed in to debate the identity of this species. Some suggested it wasn't quite enough like us to be placed in our genus, that it might be more accurately identified as Australopithecus. But others argued that the differences were too, yes, different, and that it truly represented an early member of Homo. Luckily, a lot more fossils were found in the following decades. Most of these came from Olduvai Gorge, and another famous fossil site I mentioned last time, called Kubifora, which is right alongside Lake Turkana in Kenya. Gradually, Gradually, these new discoveries gave us a much better picture of the anatomy and lifestyle of Homo habilis. Nowadays, this species is generally considered to be the earliest member of Homo that we know of, with fossils ranging from 2.3 million to...
Alright, Homo erectus and Homo habilis. Alright, I got that.
generally considered to be the earliest member of Homo that we know of, with fossils ranging from 2.3 million to 1.5 million years old. This places them nicely and neatly within the Pleistocene epoch, which you might be...
yeah, that's one of my favorite eras. That's one of my favorite eras of any time period. The Pleistocene, bro. I really want to react to Prehistoric Planet with y'all boys, but I don't think I will ever do that because I think that's going to get blocked immediately, and I'm not even going to take the chance. I tried to do like 2 to 3 videos with music reactions yesterday, and it got blocked. So I had to just do a video. That's why I only uploaded 1 video, but that's why I'm making up and try to record 4 videos so I can get this shit back right. But yeah, man, Pleistocene is one of my favorites. One of my favorite eras of the early Earth days.
A million years old. This places them nicely and neatly within the Pleistocene epoch, which you might be familiar with as the Ice Age. The oldest Homo habilis fossils overlap in time with the latest Australopithecines, but even back then, there are some key differences that set Homo habilis apart. A lot of the obvious differences are in the skull. Homo habilis exhibits less prognathism than Australopithecus. That means the jaws didn't protrude out as much, i.e. Homo habilis had a flat face. They also had smaller molars and premolars than Australopithecus. Homo habilis also had another iconic human trait, a giant head. Australopithecus brain cases tend to have an internal volume between 400 and 500 cubic centimeters. Homo habilis, like 500 to 700. So that's a lot more room for a whole lot of brain. But that's still nowhere near the size of our gargantuan modern human brains. If you ran into Homo habilis walking down the street, you'd definitely notice his differences in their head. Their faces were a bit broader than ours, not quite as flat. Their skulls were less round and fucking globe-shaped like ours. There's also a good chance you would be taller. Even I would be. Homo habilis was on the smaller side as far as humans go. With key specimens estimated to have been like 3 to 4 feet tall and weigh between 40 and 80 pounds. So very tiny and petite. Part of that height difference comes from the fact that Homo habilis had pretty short legs. That's us, Homo sapiens. That's Homo habilis. Overall, their body structure is a lot like ours. They were fully bipedal, walked on their hind legs basically full time like we do. At least most of us do. But compared to modern humans, Homo habilis still had slightly shorter legs compared to their arms. It's possible these body proportions pointed to a Tarzan lifestyle. Homo habilis had curved finger bones, kind of like climbing apes. So they might have still...
This is why I love Lizzie. Lizzie always be doing funny ass shit.
And lifestyle. Homo habilis had curved finger bones, kind of like climbing apes. So they might have still been in the habit of coming in and out of the trees, like Australopithecus before them. This kind of flexibility might have allowed these homos to access a variety of habitats, maybe even help them survive during the fluctuating climates of the Pleistocene, because they could swing around. But in other ways, Homo habilis' hands are more like ours, with broader fingertips, better for gripping, handling objects with precision. And they use those dexterous fingers not just for climbing, but also for shaping and wielding tools. Yeah, the name Homo habilis literally means handyman, because of their association with stone tools. And actually, when the species was first identified, they were thought to be the very first hominins to have used stone tools. That has since turned out to be wrong, obviously, because we found stone tools with the Australopithecines. Paranthropus possibly as well, if they are separate. Even still, Homo habilis were quite handy. Their fossils are consistently found in association with stone tools, specifically tools that are classified as Oldowan technology. Ain't no man like the handy.
It's crazy, bro, that we came from having sticks and bones on a sharp rock to guns. Like, bro, it's just crazy, bro. Like, oh my man.
Tools, specifically tools that are classified as Oldowan technology. Ain't no man like the handyman can. Nope, no one can like the handyman can. That's my song. Oldowan tools are the earliest style of stone tools that we know of. Their name comes from the site of Olduvai Gorge, where they were first identified by Louis Leakey in the 1950s. Oldowan tools are quite simple, chunks of rock that have been pounded into new shapes that can be used for scraping, chopping, smashing, etc. in the ground. These tools are typically identified by their shape and the pattern of breakage. The sharp edges of these tools also sometimes show signs of wear, just like a kitchen knife can become scratched and dulled with use. So did these tools. Speaking of kitchen knives, I kind of want to show you mine. See, they have animal patterns on them. I'm closing this so the cats don't come in. can't be in here right now. Why am I showing you these? Well, they're very worn
It's
down,
hard.
just like Oldowan tools can be worn down as well. And I guess I want to show you them because they have animal patterns on them. I've had them for years and they are extremely worn down. They barely work anymore. Yeah,
they
my mom
don't.
got these for me for Christmas. I have a whole set, but I only brought in 2. I brought in the biggest 2. Yeah, I'm a pretty easy person to shop for because I like animals, so, you know, people give me animal pattern things, and anyway, I guess I'll just put these down now. In some sites, handyman remains are found near other animal bones that have cut marks and percussion fractures, evidence that carcasses were butchered, broken up by hominins with tools. Tools such as this, but not as nice. In some cases, bones seem to have been moved from one place to another, which suggests that Homo habilis was in the habit of cutting up some carcasses, taking some pieces to go along with them. A snack to go. That's pretty sick as fuck. But let's take an extra minute to really consider what it meant for our ancestors to use tools. Obviously, humans aren't the only species that do this. Other primates use tools. Some birds. Even some fucking fish use tools. Yeah, like the tusk fish that uses rocks to open shellfish, such as clams. That's a sick-ass fish. Tool use is very simple, using objects from the environment.
Bro, I heard about this one time that in a zoo, orangutans been like locked. They've been locking the cages with, I forgot what it was. They were picking the lock with some shit, and someone got fired behind that shit, bro. Hey, bro, animals is actually smart. Y'all niggas be sleeping on. But I ain't gonna lie to y'all boys. I want a tiger for a pet. I wanted a tiger for a pet, but I don't think that's ever gonna come true.
Such as clams. That's a sick-ass fish. Tool use is very simple, using objects from the environment to accomplish some sort of task. That's a tool. Otters using rocks to smash open clams to get to the meat inside. Birds using sticks to pick up delicious bugs. Our closest living relatives, the chimps, not only use tools, they also shape them. They'll stick twigs inside of insect burrows to collect a bunch of ants or termites to eat. But they'll often strip the branches off those twigs first so that they fit more easily into the burrows. In these ways, and plenty of others, tools allow animals to access resources that might otherwise be out of reach. But the shaping of stone tools seems to be a distinct feature of hominids. Our ancestors didn't just use rocks to smash shit. They intentionally fractured stones into useful shapes. Not only is this evidence of complex thought patterns, it also fundamentally changes.
Let's be real. Getting over someone that you saw forever with, now that is a breakup that hit.
Changed the course of our evolution. What would we have without tools? Nothing. We'd have nothing. Tools shaped our evolution. They helped us survive, build societies, protect ourselves from dangers in nature, including predators. But today, those same tools give us a choice. We can't keep using them to erase species as if they don't belong to ecosystems
Are
that
she-
we're already
is she
pushing
doing
to
the
the edge,
ad?
like lions. And unfortunately, today they face many human-caused
I'm about to
threats to
say.
their survival. One of these is habitat loss, which is pushing lion prides closer to human settlements, where they often target livestock for food, posing a danger to everyone involved. The livestock, obviously, the farmers protecting them, and the lions who face retaliation. But luckily, there's one particular project to help keep lions and the people that live near them safe,
I think this
and I
is
think
a-
you'll want to know about it. It's with my friends at
It is a fucking ad. She got me. She got me. She got me. She got me. Cause her shipping damn different. She got me though. She got me though. She got me though.
making one project at a time. Thank you Planet Wild for sponsoring this video. Earlier hominins like Australopithecus typically had big teeth and powerful jaws that they used for chomping on tough food. Homo habilis didn't need them. They could use tools to break up their food instead. Obviously, they didn't get rid of their teeth entirely. They weren't just a mouth of gums, and we're not just a mouth of gums today. They just didn't need the robustness of the teeth before. And as early Homo became more reliant on tools, they became better at using them, and this changed the shape of their bodies. It's pretty intuitive to think that bigger brains led to the development of better tools. Smarter apes make better designs. Makes sense. But it's also likely that better tools led to bigger brains. As hominins' tools became more important for their survival, those individuals that were better at planning, remembering, and learning made better tools and had a better chance to survive. That's a classic style of evolutionary pressure. So brain size and tool use might have reinforced each other over time. Similarly, standing upright freed the hands for more precise tool work. But the importance of using tools might have been what pushed our ancestors to leave behind climbing altogether. Who needs to climb trees when you have knives? Ever thought of that? All of this is to say that tool use wasn't just a side effect of hominin evolution. It was a major driver of change. Using tools allowed early Homo to access new resources and compete with others in their environment. This was especially important since around this time, African habitats were becoming drier. Savannas were expanding. New techniques for finding food were a big deal. But the handyman wasn't the only hungry species around. Some Homo habilis fossils from Olduvai Gorge have bite marks on them from crocodiles. Yikes. Others have damage from some sort of large cat. Leopards, perhaps. Yikes again. Even as they became more technologically advanced and human-like, our ancestors were always on the menu for bigger and badder predators. In their anatomy and their behavior, Homo habilis represents a key transition in hominin history, the shift from earlier Australopithecus to later, more advanced hominids. But Homo habilis might not have been alone. In 1986, a Soviet anthropologist named Valery Alexiev identified a new species of ancient hominid. He named it Homo rudolfensis. This identification was based on fossils that have been discovered in the
Yeah, he looked like he damn Rudolph with that big ass nose.
70s by the son of the Leakey family, Richard Leakey. Good old Dick Leakey.
God damn!
The fossils came from the site of Kubifora on the shore of Lake Turkana, which at the time was called Lake Rudolph, hence the new name Homo rudolfensis, the humans from Rudolph. The first fossils included a nearly complete skull and some leg bones. Since then, more fossils have been discovered at a variety of sites in East Africa, ranging from 2.4 million to 1.8 million years old. So, they overlap in both time and space with Homo habilis. Pretty cool. Alexiev identified Homo rudolfensis as a distinct species based on features of the skull. Compared to Homo habilis, they had a flatter face, a larger brain case, and larger teeth. Yeah, the teeth suggest Homo rudolfensis might have been eating more tough plant material, similar to Australopithecus. If that is the case, it probably explains how these two hominin species managed to live side by side. If one species was more focused on plants than the other, they could avoid competing for food. This is a common ecological strategy called niche partitioning, where two species in the same habitat will have different enough diets to stay out of each other's way. But making interpretations about Homo rudolfensis is tough, since it's mostly only known from fragmented skull remains. Scientists don't even all agree that it's a valid species. Some suggest it might just be a slightly different population of Homo habilis. This is a common thing that comes up with the study of human evolution, if you haven't noticed. It's hard to get a scientific consensus on which fossils belong to which species, because there's so fucking many, and they're so diverse. So categorizing them is tough. We have a problem of surplus, not a problem of lack like the billboards in rural Minnesota try to tell you. Also, it's not a problem. Surplus is sick, obviously. You get what I'm saying. We talked about the importance of classifying species in this series before. The goal is to find the most accurate way of representing real-world evolutionary relationships. If we get that wrong, we could end up misinterpreting each species' place in our evolutionary story. But identifying ancient species is not easy. You might think that the solution would be just find more fossils, but part of the reason there's so much disagreement about ancient humans is because we have so many fucking fossils to look at. We, the remaining homos, love putting things in boxes. We love classifying shit. Makes it easier for us to organize and understand things. But nature doesn't function in boxes, and life doesn't actually categorize itself into species. For example, earlier, I mentioned that some ancient species of Australopithecus gave rise to Homo habilis, but it's not like a single Australopithecus just randomly gave birth one day to a baby of a whole new species. That's not how evolution works. Instead, each new generation of Australopithecus was slightly different from the last one, and after a shit ton of generations, the shape and lifestyle of the apes had changed so much that modern scientists distinguish them as a new genus and species, Homo habilis. But where exactly along that transition did it stop being one species and start being another? Hey, it's muddy as fuck. Kinda didn't. It's kinda tough. It's like trying to find the exact spot where a river becomes the ocean. The reality is, it's a slow and gradual change from one state to the next. So,
I bet you I don't even know that they be having water underwater, my nigga. Like underwater pools. I mean, y'all probably know because of SpongeBob, but other than that, I bet y'all probably didn't even know that. I knew that shit before SpongeBob.
this is a gradient. This is an example that my friend Isaac, who is also known as Science is Real, he used this to explain evolution one time, and I fucking love it. If you take a gradient, like a blue-green gradient, and you try to find the exact moment where blue turns to green, you have like greenish blue, and then suddenly it's bluish green, but where exactly is the exact middle where you could say suddenly this is no longer blue and is now green? Can't really, actually. Kind of hard to say. So it's kind of like that shit in this example. When it comes to living species, the classic distinguishing feature is reproduction. That's how scientists generally do it for the species alive today. Two populations are generally considered different species if they can't produce viable offspring. This is known as the biological species concept, and it works pretty well as long as you don't think about it too hard. Once you start looking for exceptions, they're fucking all over the place. Nature is full of hybrid species, some naturally occurring like the Narluga, others forced by man, like the liger. We don't support ligers here at Lindsay Nicole Productions. We support ligers that already exist, but not the production of ligers or anybody pushing big liger. No more ligers, please. But that's not what we're talking about today. In the fossil record, we basically have no knowledge of who was viably banging with who. So the biological species concept is out the window. Instead, paleontologists tend to use a morphological species concept, which separates species by how different they are anatomically. If this group of fossils has consistent physical differences from this group of fossils, they can be considered different species. If that sounds like it would be an even harder definition to get everyone to agree on, you are correct. And that's not to say that species concepts aren't important. They are very useful for understanding the evolutionary relationships of life on Earth. But as always, gotta remember, very important, nature never gives shit to you straight and doesn't give a fuck about boxes. So our identifications will always be an approximation of reality. We have really great approximations, but they are approximations nonetheless. Funnily enough, one of the reasons morphological species concept works so well in paleontology is that we're missing most of the fossils, because the fossil record is incomplete. We don't have fossils of everything that used to exist. We end up with snapshots of life at different times. We're missing a lot of the subtle gradients in between. But the fossil record of human ancestors is insanely good. We have thousands of fossils across millions of years, including plenty of complete skulls and skeletons. Also, many and many scientists have researched these fossils. With all that detailed data, we can't ignore the reality that our family tree looks like a fucking gradient color wheel, but then like 5 times messier than a gradient color wheel. Then it all becomes more confusing when we get to younger fossils, where we can extract DNA and find evidence of which ancient lineages were reproducing with each other. But that is a topic for a different episode, and you best believe we'll be getting into that. So when it comes to Homo rudolfensis, maybe you forgot we were talking about them, but we still are. The key question is whether or not it represents a distinct evolutionary path from Homo habilis. If it does, then it tells us that these two earliest homos took multiple different pathways to survival, either one of which might have led to modern humans. If the two are the same species, it tells us that this single earliest Homo species was diverse, widespread, highly adaptable. The answer to this question will come from a lot of really fucking nitpicky debates about really specific features of a handful of fossils. And scientists haven't finished arguing about that yet, so for now, the case is not closed. There also isn't a scientific consensus on how exactly these earliest homos are related to us. They might be our direct ancestors, like great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, or they might be a separate branch of our family tree. That would make them our great uncles and aunts. The picture starts to get a little clearer as we move closer to the present. Just under 2 million years ago, another hominin species appears in the fossil record. Not only does this species most probably include our direct ancestors, it's also one of the most famous members of our family tree. Homo erectus. Record. Not only does this species most probably include our direct ancestors, it's also one of the most famous members of our family tree. Homo erectus. I know, I get it. I know, but let's be mature here, as I already have in this episode. Way back in 1891, way before the first descriptions of Homo habilis or even Australopithecus, a Dutch paleoanthropologist named Eugene Dubois discovered some very controversial fossils in Indonesia. Yes, as in not Africa. We'll get there in a minute. These included a partial skull, a tooth, and a thigh bone from a site on the island of Java. Dubois originally gave them the name Pithecanthropus erectus, but the species came to be known more famously as Java Man. Java Man was a huge deal. At the time, it was the oldest known hominin in the fossil record, and it was the first one found in Asia. This was a shakeup for all the scientists who had spent the 19th century suggesting that the human lineage had gotten started in Europe. Dubois spent decades defending his discovery. Skeptics disagreed with his identification of Java Man as a human ancestor. Some even accused him of hoarding fossils to hide the truth and reality. Things changed again in the 1920s and 30s with the discovery of more hominin remains at a cave called Joko Dion in Beijing, China. These would end up getting their own nickname, Peking Man. In 1950, the German-American biologist Ernst Mayr combined data from Java Man and Peking Man and classified them both into the same species, Homo erectus, the upright humans. In the 100-ish years since Java Man was discovered, Homo erectus remains have been found all over parts of Asia, Africa, and Europe. And so, this species reached a massive milestone. Up until now, the entire story of our ancestors took place in Africa. Homo erectus is the first well-documented hominin species to have left our ancestral home continent that we know of. At the famous site of Dmanisi in Georgia, the country, Homo erectus fossils were found that date to about 1.8 million years ago. These are the first hominins outside of Africa that we know of. By 1.5 million years ago, the species showed up in China and Indonesia. Over the course of hundreds of thousands of years, Homo erectus spread far and wide, establishing populations all over the old world. Homo erectus was also around for a really long fucking time. The oldest fossils are just under 2 million years old, but the youngest ones, from the Javan site called Ngondong, date to just over 100,000 years ago. And as you would probably expect...
Whoa, I didn't know that. What?
from the Javan site called Ngondong date to just over 100,000 years ago. And as you would probably expect with a species that existed in a wide range
make
of time
sure
and
y'all-
space,
y'all write
they
it
have
down
a
now.
massive amount of variation. So there's lots of debate about the relationships between these populations. Some scientists have identified and named a bunch of subspecies. In this view, Java man is classified as Homo erectus erectus. Peking man is Homo erectus pekingensis. And Miocene
Don't.
fossils are Homo erectus georgicus. And there are a shit ton more. Identifying subspecies is pretty common with living species, but it is quite tricky with fossils. Not all researchers are down with it. Some argue that there isn't
Damn,
enough
this
reliable
phone
data to
battery,
distinguish
boy.
subspecies of Homo erectus. Regardless of the details, it's obvious that Homo erectus represents a major shift in human distribution as well as
Right.
human anatomy. And guess what? They looked almost exactly like us. Compared to earlier species, Homo erectus had an even flatter face, even smaller teeth. They had thick skull bones and a prominent brow ridge above the eyes, and they had huge brain cases from like 700 to 1200 cubic centimeters. For comparison, once again, modern humans are only a little bit bigger, around like 1500 cubic centimeters. The rest of the body is pretty modern as well. Contemporary, if you will. Homo erectus had almost the same body proportions as us, with relatively long legs and a tall, straight torso. They're also similar in overall size
so
to
they
modern
wasn't
humans,
short.
at around 5 feet tall. All in all, the shape of the hips, spines, similar in
Y'all boys, make sure y'all get this down now. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, Homo neanderthals. Y'all make sure y'all get this down pat now.
overall size to modern
But I'm gonna
humans,
quiz
at
y'all,
around
boys.
5 feet tall. All in all, the shape of the hips, spines, and legs gave this species the efficient strides of a fully committed two-legged walker. Unlike earlier hominins, there's no evidence of adaptations for climbing in Homo erectus. This species was a dedicated walker and, even more crucially, a runner. Our modern human species has quite a complicated relationship to running. Some people hate it. Some people view it as a chore. Others arguably do it too much. Like my cousin Sam, who recently informed
Yeah, I
me
fuck
he
with
will
running.
be doing another
I
100-mile
fuck
race at
with-
some time in the
I
near
fuck with
future.
jogging.
Regardless of your own political views on running, the fact that we're able to do it so well on 2 legs is fucking insane. It's very impressive. Our long legs, narrow hips, and springy tendons and ligaments make us super efficient at long-distance locomotion. Our species is among the most skilled long-distance runners on the planet. We're like fucking ostriches. And some researchers have actually suggested that running might have been one of the key adaptations of our lineage. The endurance running hypothesis proposes that these anatomical features allowed
2 to
Homo
6
erectus
hours.
to cover wide areas while foraging for food, and to chase down prey with a technique known as persistence hunting. Persistence hunting is pretty straightforward. You chase your prey until it passes out. This strategy is used, for example, by lots of canines, like wolves
Yep.
and African wild dogs.
Hyenas.
These animals are well adapted for long-distance jogs, with long, narrow legs and efficient breathing
Definitely
systems.
wolves.
You do not want to be up against a pack of African wild dogs. I can tell you that.
Oh, wolves, boy. Shit, wolves. Woo. Wolves will devour you. I love my dog to death, but boy, I know one day he can turn on me like back, boy. I love my dog, boy. I love Bishop to death, but boy, I know he can turn on me.
And efficient breathing systems. You do not want to be up against a pack of African wild dogs. I can tell you that much.
My
Some
dog
modern
a
human
bloodhound,
populations
too.
still use similar techniques for
And
hunting,
they
and we
quit
are
a pig.
similarly well adapted. Our long legs give us big strides. Our springy ligaments help us conserve energy with each step. And our lack of hair and plentiful sweat glands helps us regulate our body temperature during long journeys. At least in theory. Me personally, I'm more into biking, or I guess cycling. Thank God for the invention of tools so I can bike at the beach. God is in Australopithecus. Homo erectus might have been the first hominin species to take advantage of this method of getting around. Long distance locomotion might have been a huge part of how they were able to survive in so many habitats, from African savannas to Asian rainforests. We know very little about the appearance of ancient hominids, but there's good reason to think that Homo erectus had dark skin and wasn't very hairy. Some researchers found evidence in our genome that melanin-rich pigments became much more common in our cells a little over 1 million years ago. Melanin is a molecule that produces darker colors in skin and hair. It's also a useful defense against UV radiation from the sun. Our distant ancestors had furry bodies, like most other mammals, which helped protect their skin from the sun. But as hominins became less hairy, an adaptation that made it easier to cool in the heat, their skin was exposed to direct sunlight. An increase in skin pigmentation probably coincided
Yeah,
with the
no
loss
niggas
of
had
body
no
hair.
clothes
Exactly
either.
when this happened in our ancestors is not clear. But hairless skin and lots of sweat glands would have helped species like Homo erectus stay cool while running all over the eastern hemisphere. The running wasn't the only survival tool Homo erectus had. They also had, New tools. Like Homo habilis, Homo erectus is very commonly associated with stone tools. And there's some well-documented sites where Homo erectus is found alongside evidence of butchered animal carcasses. But unlike their earlier cousins, Homo erectus had upgraded to the newest technology. Some of the oldest fossils of the species are found alongside the earliest known examples of Acheulean tools. The older Oldowan tools were relatively simple shapes. Acheulean tools are a step up, displaying symmetry and standardization. Homo erectus was smashing and flaking stones into double-edged, hand-sized cutting tools like hand axes and cleavers. Not only are these tools more effective for slicing up food, their consistent, symmetrical shape might be evidence of increased hand-eye coordination, planning, cultural teaching skills. The earliest Acheulean tools are known from Kenya, more than 1.7 million years ago. This does actually overlap with later populations of Homo habilis, so it's possible that this new tech was also in their hands, but that is not known for sure for now. Homo erectus carried these improved tools across Africa, Europe, and Asia, but they weren't used everywhere. Some sites in Eastern and Southeast Asia preserve simpler stone tools, even very late in the history of the species. The lack of Acheulean tools in these areas might be related to limited raw materials, or maybe just different cultural traditions. Whatever the case, the takeaway is that long-term success of Homo erectus populations wasn't fully dependent on just one type of tech. Once again, these homos were very flexible and adaptable. And speaking of emerging tech, there's one other innovation that probably contributed to the success of Homo erectus, a technology that is even more strongly associated with humans than stone tools: fire. In South Africa, there's an archaeological site called Vonderwerk Cave, deep within the cave, far from the outside environment. Researchers identified charred remains of plant and animal material around 1 million years old. There's no evidence of wind or water carrying these remains into the cave, but there are lots of Acheulean stone tools. Meanwhile, at the site of Gezer Benot Yaakov, near the Dead Sea, researchers have found evidence of repeated fires being contained in hearth-like structures, sort of like the charred remains that build up in a fireplace or campfire. These date to just under 800,000 years ago and are also associated with Acheulean tools. So, by around 1 million years ago, Homo erectus was building fires. Exactly when they got good at starting fires is hard to know. Early on, they might have taken advantage of wildfires. Maybe they'd find a burning stick, carry it back home to show mother. Eventually, our ancestors learned to start fires themselves. Being able to intentionally light and control fire was a huge deal for ancient humans. I think it's still huge for humans today. It's fucking sick to know how to do that. I can't do it without, assistance. But even with assistance, it feels cool. For our ancient human ancestors, it wasn't just cool. It also provided light, even after sunset, or deep within a cave, which could have allowed them to extend their daily activities. A toasty campfire could keep people warm, even in cold habitats. And if
I'll be watching backyard, the wild back. Oh, damn, I don't know. That's his name. Outdoor boys. That's his name. I think that's his name. Bro, be making fire when he in the igloo. All types of shit, bro. I love watching him. I'm sad that he's not doing YouTube because people was being weird. But I love watching shit like that, bro. It'd be so cool just to see them cook and do all types of stuff that we used to do millions of years ago.
Allowed them to extend their daily activities. A toasty campfire could keep people warm even in cold habitats. And of course, fire is useful for cooking. In the modern world, it can be pretty easy to forget how monumentally important cooking is. The process of cooking breaks down tough materials, makes it easier to chew and digest. Ever tried chewing a raw steak? It's hard. Actually, don't try that. You're not getting sick on my watch. Because cooking also kills off a lot of bacteria and other harmful organisms. So a cooked meal means more nutrition for less physical effort and less risk of disease. Cooking also allowed early humans to access a wider variety of food. Evidence of butchered and burned remains at archaeological sites suggests that Homo erectus was eating more meat than previous hominid species, including not only land animals, but also aquatic foods like fish and turtles. Meaty meals have lots of calories and essential proteins and minerals. Some researchers have suggested that a switch to more meat might have helped fuel the bigger brains, more efficient bodies of species like Homo erectus. If nothing else, it definitely marked an important shift in humans' role in the ecosystem, with long legs, stone tools, and fire. The foundations were set for us to become apex predators. Overall, Homo erectus was probably the first hominin species to live a recognizable human-like lifestyle, wandering over wide areas, developing and teaching complex toolcraft, and using fire to cook meals into warm homes. Homo erectus is a pivotal bridge between earlier Homo species with their smaller brains, simpler tools, and later modern humans. But like their earlier cousins, Homo erectus might not have been alone. Homo ergaster is the name that has been given to hominin populations in East Africa between 1.9 and 1.4 million years ago. When it was first named in 1975, it was distinguished from Homo erectus by differences in the shape of the brain case, thickness of the skull bones. And just like every other Homo so far, there's debate about whether Homo ergaster is more accurately classified classified as part of Homo erectus or as a separate branch of the hominin family tree. Some researchers consider it a subspecies, which would be Homo erectus ergaster. Interestingly, the hominins at Dmanisi, those earliest out-of-Africa hominins, are similar in some ways to Homo ergaster, so it might have been this population, or one like it, that gave rise to the first long-distance hominin migrants. Homo ergaster, if it exists, also has the distinction of including one of the most complete and informative hominin fossils known from the early Pleistocene epoch. In 1984, Kenyan paleoanthropologist Kamoya Kimiu, working near Lake Turkana in Kenya, discovered the skeleton of a young hominin individual dating to about 1.5 million years ago. This specimen, which became known as Turkana boy, preserves about 40% of the entire skeleton. Based on the developmental state of the leg bones and teeth, scientists estimate Turkana boy was between 8 to 12 years old at the time of death. This makes him a very rare insight into early hominin childhood. The level of development in the skeleton suggests that Turkana boy had a longer childhood than modern chimps, but wasn't quite as slow growing as modern humans, which makes us practically useless for a very long time. Another key feature of our species: our babies take forever to grow up. That's because we use that extra growing time to do important things like learning and socializing. But we're very dependent on adults for a very long time, compared to every other species on the planet that we know of. So it seems like Homo ergaster, or Homo erectus, depending on your taxonomic perspective, had already evolved a more extended growth period similar to modern humans. Some researchers have identified that Turkana boy's skull seems to have been developing more slowly than the rest of the body. This might represent a sort of hybrid growth pattern that allowed early humans to get big quickly, but still spend extra time developing their brains. Turkana boy's skeletal proportions are similar to other Homo erectus finds: long legs, narrow pelvis, slender body, big brain. The rib cage is also barrel-shaped, compared to more cone-shaped rib cages of Australopithecines. This might be related to expanded lung capacity, another feature that would have helped make these hominins excellent runners. Turkana boy stood at about 5 foot 3 inches tall. Researchers estimate that they were pretty close to full adult size. It's pretty close to my full adult size, but I'm still taller, which is pretty sick. So, by around 1.5 million years ago, our hominin ancestors were standing tall, walking fast, using complex tools across multiple continents. They might have even already been cooking with fire by then. Even as they achieved more and more human milestones, ancient hominins remains diverse, with varied anatomy and lifestyles in a variety of habitats. Just like Australopithecus before them, early Homo was less of a straight line of descendancy and more of a mosaic of interrelated species and assorted traits and traditions. Some researchers think that Homo habilis and or Homo rudolfensis were the direct ancestors of Homo erectus and or Homo ergaster. Others propose that Homo habilis was an early side branch. And of course, some argue that Homo rudolfensis and Homo ergaster weren't even distinct species at all. But most researchers agree that Homo erectus probably gave rise to the human species of the late Pleistocene, like Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, and eventually, the last species standing, Homo sapien. Homo sapien! And you can expect those later Homo species in the next episode. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. It's 100% Homo from here on out. Fully Homo. So get ready. Keep up with behind the scenes updates, live streams, and our Discord server on Patreon. And for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!
Hey! I fuck with that. I fuck with that. I fuck with that. I fuck with that. Hey, man, I told y'all boys I wanted to do something for y'all boys that I wanted to do, man. And I love it. I love it. I love it, man. I love it, bro. I love it. But hey, man, that's the end of the video, man. Like, share, comment, all that good shit, man. I'm out.